today is our Thursday bonus media session. Any questions?
How do you feel that inside linebackers, K1, Justin, and Cody stepped up?
Look, when we lost Alex in Tampa, man, and I would say very well. Sometimes you don't know necessarily what you have until you have to play him. And so whether it's Cody, Cernat, or all those guys have done a good job. And we've got a couple packages where some of them are on the field and then others. But I would say I've been real pleased. I think defensively, Vance, those guys have done a good job with that. Thumb. Yeah, so he didn't practice. Yeah.
Good afternoon. Good to be with you after a win last week, and got a little bit of a mini bye there. So really awesome to be back at home and feel the energy of the crowd, and excited about the weekend. Questions?
Do you self-scout at the bye, or do you take?
Yeah, we'll take some time. I think that self-scout that you mentioned, that's a dynamic process. I think you're always doing that, and that extra day or two allows you a little bit more space to reflect and see, how other teams look at you. But that's a process that occurs each week.
With Will, just the consistency that he's brought, obviously, to the placemaker spot, and then obviously a big night where he's spent a lot of time in New Orleans. What have you gotten?
Yeah, really happy for him on that night. Obviously 4 for 4, the 52-yard long. He's done a great job, and as solid as he's been in the game, that's what we see in practice. So that's encouraging as a coach when you see the work pay off that he's putting in on the field, and then it shows itself on the game, and especially in New Orleans. I know it meant a lot to him, meant a lot to our team, and it was a good win. But now we're looking at Carolina, and we'll have a challenge for us.
Ben, you are number one in field position on one side of the ball, number 3 on the other. Is that the ultimate stat for a special team?
Well, I think that's part of it, Mike. I think that just speaks to the quality of our guys. I think that's an element of it. Anytime you can play complementary football, we hear that term a lot, and to your point, what that means setting up field position for your defense, for your offense, and we've had a very, very good start. I think there's still some, lack of a better term, meat on it, but that we can build upon. So still waiting for a couple of those big plays, but that starting field position is something that we talk about. It's something that Coach emphasizes, and it's good to see that come to fruition.
We're not all the way at the midway point, but 7 games in, kind of league-wide. What have you seen that you liked about the new kickoff, or surprised you, or that you may not like?
Okay, I think what we like is what we're being told is the injury rate is down, especially in the high-speed, long-run collisions, number one. Number two is the return rate is up. Right now it rests around 33%, which is higher than it was, and I think that's going to continue to increase just because of weather conditions and such. I think as far as schematically, we've been pretty good at it. It's interesting, like when you watch what schemes and techniques different teams are using, and so it's still a learning process. But I think overall, stock is up on the play.
It's a copycat league, obviously. Have you seen the teams that have done it well? Has the league sort of coalesced around schemes in terms of covering and returning kicks, or is it still pretty varied?
Yeah, I think it's still pretty varied. I do think you're starting to see some trends, and not only schematically, but the way that teams are blocking people and such. And we've been pretty good on the return side. So people are looking at us, and to go to the self-scout point, now you look at it and say, okay, so what could we vary differently? But I'm encouraged where it's at and excited to see where it goes. We're just want to get pitches to hit. We got a couple last week. I think we made a little bit of hay there, but we still have some growth to make in that phase.
Time for 2 more.
Yeah, is that different? Not that you didn't pay attention to the way you returned things before, but we were, described as like almost a run play when you just miss it, like you see something.
So
chance, but you also don't want to. They don't kick off the rest of the game. You're fine with that?
Yeah, I think that the play is hitting faster. I think that's been a common theme, that the returner gets onto the coverage faster than you originally would have thought. There was a return last week. Cincinnati ended up, getting a long one there on Cleveland, and so you're learning from all those. And again, you just technique-wise, just continuing to improve.
just what have you liked out of Javonte Williams and your proudest statement since the Jets game?
Yeah, I mean, he's been productive, and it's, I think, coming out of training camp, it's what we expected, and obviously the first couple games we didn't get the numbers we wanted, but yeah, we could tell that it was coming. So he's just been consistent. He gets tough yards, and hopefully we can keep that rolling.
What's the kind of the biggest difference you've seen, particularly from those first 3 weeks to
I just think it's overall execution of the team. I mean, I don't think you look at anything in the first. I mean, obviously there's always a rep or two in every game where a player could have done something different to help his performance, but overall, I just think it's the execution of the team in general. People blocking better for him, maybe the scheme's a little better, called versus the right look, whatever it is. There's so many variables that go into a successful play, but he's got his legs under him, I think, better than he did last year, and I think it's showing.
I think Bo has 1 pick over the last 5 games, tied for the fewest sacks. Because how rare is it to see a rookie avoid those type of mistakes, especially early?
Yeah, I think it's rare, but I think it's in the scouting process of the quarterbacks, man, that's what stood out to me with the player is that he was tough to sack. He didn't take a lot of sacks, and he didn't turn the ball over a lot. And I think if you can start with that as a quarterback, man, it's those are 2 really big building blocks that you can build off of. And so I think it was part of his play style in college, and happy that it to this point has been transferring over to his NFL career so far. I think it's so much goes into that. Not throwing interceptions, not taking sacks, and I think there's a saying that sacks is a quarterback stat more than an offensive line stat, and I think with him that's certainly. I mean, the offensive line's blocking well, don't get me wrong, but his ability to avoid those is huge.
He's talked about he's got a lot of room to still.
Oh yeah.
But I guess the high floor there of avoiding those mistakes.
Yeah.
How much easier does that make things on the offense?
I think a lot easier. I mean, I think Sean said it. As a play caller, I think when you feel you don't have to call the perfect play for the quarterback, sometimes it's like, all right, he took a sack there, but man, maybe we weren't open as fast as we were hoping, and it puts pressure on you when you feel like the quarterback's going to get you in a bad situation if you haven't called the perfect play, and he's going to avoid the big mistakes. You can be a little more aggressive.
There's also been critique, Joe, on some of the passes he's missed, those intermediate passes.
Yeah.
Where do you come down at? A lot of talk on his footwork and that kind of stuff.
I think every play has a rhythm to it, and you start running all these plays on air, where there's no defense, and so you groove your footwork into that, and then the receiver gets jammed. Maybe you got to hang a little bit, and so there's just experience that comes with that, with having your feet set. But I think. One of the challenges we talked earlier that he avoids sacks, and so just grooving in the footwork with the ability to escape and not be stuck in the pocket if something breaks down. Those are all works in progress, but I think with experience, all that will get better.
Coach Troy Franklin's had a big role in the offense the past couple of weeks. What did you see from him before that to feel comfortable getting that?
Yeah, I think just comfort in the offense. I mean, you could see the speed, the route running, the talent that he had from day one, but just being able to play fast. Because of your comfort level with the offense, I think it's just an experience thing, and he's a quick learner. He's an eager guy, real good attitude, and so just as the weeks have gone on, you see that he's more comfortable to be able to play faster, and so all that's helped.
Just what have you liked about how Joseph Sanan has been able to step in after Alex?
It's been good to see. Obviously he's a guy that we brought back here. He's a young player who's played more teams and he's played defense, but he's been dying to play defense. So he got a chance to play. He's played good football, and that's the NFL. You kind of identify guys who can play within your scheme, and whoever you keep on your roster, they've got to be able to play defense. for you. So I'm not surprised that he's had some good days. You know, that's why we signed him and kept him in. You know, everyone's getting coached in the same room, same scheme. So every guy who makes our roster, they can help us. You know, and that's the way it should be in this league.
You've been around Zach his entire career.
Alan, you mean?
Alan,
yes.
When you watch him play now, what does he do now in his 6th year that maybe he wasn't capable, didn't know how to do earlier?
Well, I said this in the spring. I thought Zach has gotten stronger as a run defender. You know, obviously, you know, he's always had the pass rush ability, you know, to beat guards and tackles, even, you know, big time guys, you know, in his career. But the run game stuff's always been just okay. That's improved a lot. You know, he's taken pride in being a run defender, which is he's a complete player now. You know, so that's important for him. But he works at it. You know, and he's always a guy that's trying to improve mentally or physically. So it's been good to see.
Vance, what have you seen from Bryce Young through his first year and a couple starts this year?
Well, when I watch a young guy, he's a elite processor. The ball's out very fast. He's a first-round pick for a reason, right? I mean, that wasn't one team. That was a league grade. You know, so he's got talent. That's not his problem. Obviously, he's a young player that's hadn't played a lot. You know, so he's still figuring out who he is, and you know, so are we. You know, but when you watch his tape, he's a great processor. He's accurate, athletic. You know, so he's what the young quarterbacks are. Obviously, it hadn't been all good for him. You know, but having a chance to watch sometimes for young players allows them to kind of sit back and relax and just play, you know, and play freer, you know, and not worry about mistakes. So we'll see what happens on Sunday, but obviously he's a talent that's earned his draft status.
From preparation standpoint, in the game plan standpoint, how much does it change when they go from Dalton to Bryce, especially for you guys midweek?
System-wise, it hadn't changed much. You know, what they do with each quarterback is a little bit different, obviously, because of the physical traits. But system-wise, it hadn't changed much. So our plan hadn't changed. Obviously, when you're playing a guy like Bryce, who's a mover and who can scramble with his legs, you got to have a different rush plan. You know, so that's always in the cards. But every week we prepare for both quarterbacks, right? I mean, have a one every two, so we don't miss a mark on what the number two can do. So, you know, nothing's changed, right? As we game plan Monday and Tuesday, he was in our plans. So now he's playing, nothing changes.
Vance says, you know how this works, as your unit has success, you get mentioned as a head coach candidate for next year. What's your thoughts on that? Would you like another shot at it?
Well, Mike, I don't have a thought about it right now because thank God this league has seasons, right? You know, you have an off season, you have a draft season. Right now it's play and win season. So for me, my entire focus, Mike, is this football game, you know, and winning games and coaching right now. That stuff takes care of itself down the road. You know, it's a season for that stuff. But right now, for me, it doesn't even have a place for me, right? I'm so busy right now. My mind's on this team, a young defense who's playing good football, to keep improving each week, to get ahead of the adversity before it strikes. That's my focus, you know. But obviously, you know, being mentioned is, you know, it's cool. But right now, my mind's not there.
Vance, in 2018, you were here when Vaughn had a sack in 6 straight games. Nick's got 5.
Mm-hmm.
And I realize you want everybody to get sacks, but is that something you're mindful of in terms of going into the game?
Well, you know, Nick's a good pass rusher, you know, and the more we play with leads, the more you'll see Nick, you'll see Coop, you'll see Barron, all those guys can rush the passer, you know, and it's obviously fun to watch those guys have success, you know, so if he can get 6, 7 in a row, that's great for our football team. That means that we're rushing well as a unit and winning football games. So absolutely, I want those guys to continue to rush the passer well.
Last question. Vance, when Pat left the game against the Chargers, you put Jake Vaughn on the outside. Mm-hmm. After that, you put Levi on the outside. What kind of went into that decision?
Well, you know,
was one in?
Obviously, yeah, you know, obviously when you get a player hurt in game, it's tough to adjust without having time, you know, and J-Mac had more outside corner reps than Levi did, that previous week. So that was the in-game adjustment. But having some time to kind of prepare for the New Orleans Saints, we put Levi outside because obviously he's an experienced corner. But we had a chance to rep him outside during the week, so that made more sense for us to keep J-Mac inside. And we had Mathis back, so we had more corners outside to play with depth versus a nickel player.